Basic Git interview questions. First one is, what is version control system? What is Git repository? What does Git clone do? What does the command git config do? Can you explain a head in terms of Git and also tell the number of heads that can be present in a repository? What is a conflict? What is the functionality of Git ls tree? What does git status command do? Define index. What does git add command do? Intermediate git interview questions. Why it is considered to be easy to work on Git? How will you create a Git repository? Tell me something about Git stash. What is the command used to delete a branch? What differentiates between the commands git remote and git clone? What does git stash applies command do? Differentiate between git pull and git fetch. Intermediate git interview questions. Why do we not call git pull request as push request? Can you tell the difference between Git and GitHub? What do the git diff and git status commands do? What has to be run to scratch multiple commits last and into a single commit? How would you recover a branch that has already pushed changes in the central repository but has been accidentally deleted from every team member's locally mission? Can you tell me something about Git reflog? What consists of a commit object? Explain the levels in Git config and how can you configure values using them? What is a detached head and what causes these and how to avoid these? What does git annotate command do? What is the difference between git stash apply versus git stash pop command? Advanced git interview questions. What command help us know the list of branches merged to master? How will you resolve conflict in Git? What is the best advisable step in case of broken commit? Create an additional commit or amend an existing commit. How to revert a bad commit which is already pushed. What is the functionality of git cherry pick command? Explain steps involved in removing a file from git index without removing from the local file system. What are the factors involved in considering which commands to choose among git merge and git rebase? Oh my god. Advanced git interview questions. How do you find a commit which broke something after a merge operation? What are the functionalities of git reset, -, mix, and git merge -abort? Can you tell the difference between git revert and git reset? These are the questions. I'm going to show you how to answer these questions. First question is, what is Git and why it is used? Git is a most popular open source widely used and an example of distributed version control system used for handling the development of small and large projects in a more efficient and neat manner. It is the most suitable when there are multiple people working on project as a team and is used for tracking the project changes and efficiently supports the collaboration of the development process. With the help of the versioning system, the developers can identify who has made what changes and then run tests and fix bugs if any and then do necessary features implementation. In case of any unforeseen circumstances, the code can be reverted to any of the previously working versions, thereby saving huge efforts. Yellow color is a team, and these are the developers. This is the local repository. Local repository developer 2 and local repository developer 3. Due to well established version control system and the support for collaborative work, Git has generated wide popularity not just amongst the software developers but also among the peoples who do other tasks like documentation or any other collaborative work. It can seem challenging at first, but once we get the hang of it, we find that it makes our life much simpler. It has an amazing branching system that supports non-linear development along with keeping the developers accountable for their code. This helps in making the development process efficient and faster. Basic Git interview questions. What is a Git? What is a version control system? A version control system keeps tracking of the contribution of the developers working as a team on the projects. They maintain the history of code changes done and with project evolution it gives an upper hand to the developers to introduce new code, fix bugs and run tests with confidence that their previously working a copy could be restored at any moment in case of things wrong go wrong. What is a Git repository? A repository is a file structure where Git stores all the project based files. Git can either stores the files on the local or the remote repository. Third one, what does git clone do? The commands create a copy or clone of an existing git repository. Generally, it is used to get a copy of the remote repository to the local repository. What does the command git config do? The git config command is convenient way to set configuration option for defining the behavior of this repository, user information and preferences. Git installed based on what does the command git config do? The git config command is a convenient way to set configuration option for dealing the behavior of the repository, user information and preferences. Git installation based configurations and many such things. For example, to set up your name and email address before using git commands, we can run the below commands. Fourth one, what does the command git config do? The git config command is a convenient way to set configuration option for defining the behavior of the repository, user information and preferences, git installation based configurations, and many such things. For example, to set up your name and email address before using git commands, we can run the below commands. Git config global space user dot name. You can mention the username and git config global space user dot email. You have to mention your email. Fifth one, can you explain head in terms of git and also tell the number of heads that can be presented in a repository? A head is nothing but a reference to the last commit object of the branch. For every repository, there will always be a default head referred to as master or now main as per GitHub, but there is no restriction to the count of heads available. In other words, it can have any number of heads usages to go or check out to one commit before the latest commit. We use git checkout head 1 to uncommit the last 3 commits without losing the changes. We first run git reset head 3. Then we can see the changes made in the last 3 commits and then updated it manually and committed it finally. In order to uncommit the last 3 commits and also remove the changes, we can run the command git reset hard head 3. This command will completely remove all the changes. To look into the changes made in the last 3 commits, we can run git diff head 3. To make a new commit by reverting the last 3 commits, we can run the command git revert no commit head 3 head. Sixth question, what is a conflict? Git usually feature merges automatically, but sometimes while working in a team environment, there might be cases of conflict, such as when two separate branches have changes to the same line in a file. Second one is a file is deleted in one branch but has been modified in the other. These conflicts have to be solved manually after discussion with the team, as Git will not be able to predict what and who changes have to be given precedence. Git conflict. These are the versions. Version 3. Conflict are resolved and pushed. Team member 2 faces conflict due to changes in same file. Both should have mutual discussion and merge their changes together. Team member 1 made changes and pushed it to version 2b. Team member 2 made changes in same file and tries to push version 2a. And team member 2 faces conflict due to the changes in same file. Both should have mutual discussion and merge their changes together. So conflict are resolved and pushed to the repository. What is the functionality of git ls tree? This command returns a tree object representation of the current repository along with the mode and the name of each item and the SHA1 value of the blob. What does git status command do? Git status command is used for showing the difference between the working directory and the index, which is helpful for understanding Git in depth and also keep track of the tracked and not tracked changes. Define index. Before making commits to the changes done, the developer is given provision to format and review the file and make innovations to them. All these are done in the common area, which is known as index or staging area. Untracked, staged, committed, and modified in the tracked area. Untracked, this will be staged and staged after that committed and modified. And also modified file will be goes to the staged file or commit and this file will be deleted. In this above image, the staged status indicates the staging area and provides an opportunity for the peoples to evaluate changes before committing to them. What does git add command do? This command adds files and changes to the index of the existing directory. You can add all changes at once using git add dot space dot command. You can add files one by one specifically using git add uh, space file name command. You can add content of the particular folder by using git add forward slash folder name command. Intermediate git interview questions. Why it is considered to be easy to work on git? With the help of git developers have gained many advantages in terms of performing the development process faster and in a more efficient manner. Some of the main features of git which has made it easier to work are branching capabilities. Due to its sophisticated branching capabilities, developers can easily work on multiple branches for the different features of the project. It also has an easier merge option along with an efficient workflow feature diagram for tracking it. Distributed manner of development. Git is a distributed system, and due to this nature, it becomes easier to trace and locate data if it lost from main server. In this system, the developer gets a repository file that is presented on the server. Along with this file, a copy of this is also stored in the developer system, which is called as local repository. Due to this, the scalability of the project gets drastically improved. Pull request feature. This feature helps in easier interaction among the developers of the team to coordinate merge operations. It keeps a proper track of the changes done by developers to the code. Effective release cycle. Due to the presence of the wide variety of features, Git helps to increase the speed of the release cycle and helps to improve the project workflow in an efficient manner. How will you create a Git repository? Have Git installed in your system. Then, in order to create a Git repository, create a folder for the project and then run git init. Doing this will create a .git file in the project folder which indicates that the repository has been created. Tell me something about git stash. Git stash can be used in cases where we need to switch in between branches and at the same time not wanting to lose edits in the current branch. Running the git stash command basically pushes the current working directory stash and index to the stash for future use, and thereby providing a clean working directory for other tasks. What is command used to delete a branch? To delete a branch, we can simply use the command git branch -d. To delete a branch locally, we can simply run the command git branch -d local branch name. To delete a branch remotely, run the command git push origin -delete. Deleting a branch scenarios occurs for multiple reasons. One such reason is to get rid of the futures branches once it has been merged into the development branch. What differentiates between the commands git remote and git clone? Git remote command creates an entry in git config that specifies a name for the particular URL, whereas git clone creates a new repository by copying an existing one located at the URL. What does git stash apply command do? Git stash apply command is used for bringing the works back to the working directory from the stash where the changes were stashed using git stash command. This helps to developers to resume their work where they had left their work before switch to the other branch. Differentiate between git pull and git fetch. Git pull. This command pulls new changes from the current working branch located in the remote central repository. Git fetch. This command is also used for similar purpose, but it follows two steps process. Pull all commits and changes from desired branch and store them in a new branch of the local repository current. For changes to be reflected in the current changes to be reflected in a current or target branch, git fetch should be followed by git merge. Git pull equal to git fetch plus git merge. It is a combination of git fetch and git merge. Git pull is. Can you give difference between pull request and branch? Pull request. This process is done when there is a need to put a developer's change into another person's code branch. Branch. A branch is nothing but a separate version of the code. 19th question. Why do we not call git pull request as push request? Push request is termed so because it is done when the target repository requests us to push our changes to it. Pull request is named as such due to the fact that the repo request the target repository to grab or pull the changes from it. This is a git central repository. This is my local system. Git add will be committed to object. Commit the object. Git pull will clone the code to the local repository. Git push will push the code to the remote repository. Can you tell the difference between Git and GitHub? Git This Git is a, this is a distributed version control system installed on local machine which allows developers to keep track of commit histories and supports collaborative work. GitHub. This is a cloud-based source code repository developed by using Git. Git. This is a maintained by the Linux Foundation. GitHub is this was acquired by Microsoft. SVN Git SVN Mercurial etc. are the competitors. GitLab, Atlassian, Bitbucket etc. are the competitors. GitHub provides a variety of services like forking, user management, etc., along with providing a central repository for collaborative work. What do the git diff and git status commands do? Git diff. The git diff. This shows the changes between commits, working tree, etc. Git status. This shows the difference between the working directory and index. That is essential in understanding Git in depth. Git diff works in a similar fashion to Git status, with the only difference of showing the differences between commits and also between the working directory and index. What has to be run to scratch multiple commits last and into the single commit. Squashing multiple commits to a single one overrides the history, which is why it is recommended to be done using full cautions. This step can be done by running the commands git rebase-i head, where n represents the number of commits needed to be squashed. 23 question. How would you recover a branch that has already pushed changes in the central repository but has been accidentally deleted from every team member local mission? We can recover this by checking out of the latest commit of this branch in the reflag and then checking it out as a new branch. 24th question. Can you tell something about git reflag? This command tracks every single changes made in the repository references that can be branches or tracks, and also maintain the branches or tags log history that was either created locally or checked out. References logs such as a commit snapshots of when uh, the branches was created or cloned, checked out, renamed, or any commits made on the branch are maintained by Git and listed by the reflag command. This recovery of the branch is only possible when the branch was either created locally or checked out from the remote repository in your local repository. Can you tell me? Can you tell me?